Hello friends, I am Dr. Sachinpathare from Sri Onkarnath Malpani Law College. Today I would like to deal with the concept which is most important under the Transfer of Property Act 1882, and that concept is immobile property. Why? Because chapter 2 of transfer of property, which has been divided the principles incorporated from section 5 to 53A. So, under sections 5 to 37, the principles which has been incorporated which deals with movable property, and the principles which has been incorporated from section 38 to 53A which are dealing with immobile property. So, the Transfer of Property Act mostly focus on immobile property. So, that is why under this act we have to know what exactly expected under this Transfer of Property Act to mean immobile property. So, apart from that, that Registration Act has been provided certain type of property which must be registered. So, immobile property has been specifically provided with certain exceptions. It must be registered. When it is immobile, it must be registered with certain exceptions. So, that is why this is the need to know in proper manner what is meant by immobile property. But when we take into consideration the definition which has been provided under section 3, that is the interpretation clause under Transfer of Property Act, which has provided the negative definition, and it says that immobile property does not include standing timber, growing crops and grass. So, the definition which has been provided under the Transfer of Property Act is negative and incomplete. It not provide a clear meaning what is meant by exactly immobile property. So, when there is a incomplete definition in any statute, so we can go towards General Clauses Act, and if that definition is provided there. So, here in General Clauses Act, the definition of immobile property has been provided under section 3 subclause 26. So, your General Clauses Act says that immobile property shall include. So, accordingly it has been provided immobile property shall include standing timber, growing crops. General Clauses Act provided that land, things attached to the earth and things rooted into the earth. So, these three things which has been provided under General Clauses Act. So, again here though the definition which has been provided under General Clauses Act is positive and inclusive, but again we did not come to know what is exactly what is meant by immobile property. Apart from that, section 3 subclause 6, section 2 subclause 6 of Registration Act has been provided the various types of immobile property. So, that definition is also inclusive. So, when we take into consideration all these three definitions, so then we come to know what is exactly meant by immobile property. Apart from that, there are various judicial pronouncements which had focused to explain, to interpret, to widen the scope of the definition, the meaning of immobile property. So, by taking into consideration the definitions which have been provided under Transfer of Property Act, General Clauses Act and Registration Act, we come to know what immobile property includes. So, this is the inclusions which has been provided under immobile property. So, that is immobile property includes land, benefits arises out of the land, and thereafter things attached to the earth. But this land means immobile property. So, here this land means surface of the earth. So, here again we have to come to know three things. It means upon the land, thereafter under the land, and third thing above the land. So, what it encompasses? So, here upon the land, it means the surface which comprises soil, clay or whatever things which are attached to the surface which is fixed, that is also known as a immobile property. Thereafter under the land, it means whatever things, those minerals, thereafter coal, gold and whatever subsoil which is available under the land, that is known as the that is comprising the part of land. So, again this property is also called as the immobile property. Then above the land, it means this space, this is also forming the part of land. It begins from the surface and it ends to the sky. So that's why when we taking into consideration land as an immobile property, so at that time we have to take into account what is comprises in upon the land, what is under the land, and what comprises above the land. So all those things are known as a immobile property. Thereafter, second thing which has been provided in General Clauses Act, benefits to arise out of the land. So what is mean by that? Benefit arises out of the land. So those things we have seen in case of land. So accordingly, the benefit which arises out of that land may be from upon the land, above the land, or under the land. So benefits arises out of the land. Examples we can take here. If there is a pond and if anyone has a right of fishery, so that person who is doing a fishery from that pond, it is his beneficial right arises out of the land. If there is a rent from any house, so that collecting rent or the right of tenant to live in that rented house, this is his right. That right is known as that beneficial right or benefit arises out of the land. Similarly, if any person has a right of ferry, that is transportation from the water, river or pond, that ferry is also known as benefit arises out of the land. So benefit arises out of the land also form as immobile property. And third thing which has been provided, things attached to the earth. So what is meant by things attached to the earth? So these things attached to the earth again provided under section 3 of the Transfer of Property Act. It has been separately provided. It not provided under the definition of immobile property. So when we speaks about that things attached to the earth, so at that time it means again three things. So what are those three things? Here, things embedded into the earth. Second thing is things attached to what is so embedded in the earth, and third thing is things rooted into the earth. So here we again take into consideration one by one what is meant by things attached to the earth. So first thing is things embedded in the earth. So what is meant by embedded? Embedded means insertion in the land. So our buildings, houses, walls, electric poles, these are embedded into the earth. So these things, our houses, buildings, walls, electric poles, these are called immobile property because these are fixed, these are inserted into the land. So that's why these are called as things embedded in the earth. So that's why this is also again immobile property. Thereafter, there is another thing that is known as things attached to. What is so embedded in the earth? So those things which are inserted, embedded in the earth, and those things which has been fastened or attached to the embedded things, so these are known as immobile property. So what are those which has been added or attached to what is so embedded in the earth? So we have a building, we have a house, we have walls. So to those walls, to these buildings, there are doors, windows. So these doors, windows forming immobile property. These are attached to what is so embedded into the earth. So here doors and windows, these are called as immobile property. So there may be a question arises in your mind whether electric bulbs, fans, curtains of windows, whether these are immobile property because these are attached to the walls. So these things, electric bulbs, your curtains, or whatever other ornamental things, these are provided only for those things itself. So that's why these things are not forming immobile property because these are not for permanent beneficial enjoyment of that particular thing. So enjoyment has been taken from those things only, from those electric bulbs, from those curtains. So these are not forming that immobile property. So in this case, that things attached to what is so embedded in the earth, here your windows and your doors or the permanent fixtures, so those things you cannot remove from that whatever embedded into the earth. If you removed all those things, so at that time there will be damage. Whatever you have removed, that will be damaged, or that may damage to the land. So such type of that fastened, fixed, inserted things are called as immovable property, and those things which are only ornamental can't form as an immovable property. Then third thing which has been provided there, that is things rooted in the earth, except things rooted in the earth. It means what? It means green trees. Their roots, they are inserted into the earth so long. So here the exception which has been provided, because Transfer of Property Act section 3, it has been provided that immovable property does not include. So what it does not include? Standing timber, growing crops and grass. And when we take into consideration the definition which has been provided in General Clauses Act, it is positive, it is inclusive. So wherein it has been provided things attached to the earth, or things which has been permanently fastened to things attached to the earth. So here things rooted in the earth are also known as immovable property. So we can take an example. There are various green trees which has been attached to the earth. Their roots are so long, went into the earth. So accordingly, neem tree, sesame tree, maua tree, so the roots of these trees has been so deeply rooted into the earth. So these trees are called as an immovable property. But again, question maybe arises relating to this. If there are fruit bearing trees, then what about those fruit bearing trees? Whether fruit bearing trees are treated as immovable property. So standing timber means that green trees which has been used as a timber, as a furniture for making chairs, tables, or furniture which is available in homes. So that is known as the standing timber. So which is removed from land, such type of standing timber not comes under immovable property. But those timber which has been not used for furniture or for any other purpose, and which is permanently rooted into the earth, so those timber are known as immovable property. So we are taking into consideration fruit bearing tree. Suppose there is a mango tree, whether mango tree will be treated as an immovable property or it will be treated as a movable property. Why? Because when we cut fruits from the mango tree or any other fruit tree, so at that time it is called as a immovable property. But when those fruits has been cut down from the tree and those has been sent to the market, so at that time those fruits are movable property. So fruit bearing trees are known as immovable property. Relating to this, in Shantibai versus State of Bombay, 1958 is the year of that case, where Supreme Court explained and differentiated relating to which tree can be called as immovable property and which will be called as a movable property. So here Supreme Court has given direction, it is depend upon the intention of the owner of that tree. If the owner of the tree is intended that tree, fruit bearing tree, he wants to only take the benefit of fruits, so at that time that tree will be treated as an immovable property. But suppose if that owner of mango tree wants the tree should be used as an furniture, so at that time that mango tree will be treated as a movable property. So whether that tree is movable or immovable, it is depend upon the intention of the owner. So accordingly, so those things rooted in the earth except standing timber, growing crops and growing grass. So apart from these things, whatever shrubs, herbs and trees, these are called rooted things and comes under immovable property. So this standing timber which has been accepted to calling it as an immovable property. Why? Because there is a temporary use of those standing timber of green trees for furniture or wooden for any other fuel or any other purpose is there. So that's why standing timber does not come under immovable property. Thereafter, growing crops. So every crop has its own limited period. After its ripening, it can be cut down from the land. Though its roots are rooted into the land, So at that time we can't call growing crops as an immobile property, because the purpose of immobile property is limited one. And thereafter third thing which has been provided, that is growing grass. So growing grass, it has also limited purpose. Grass is always used for fodder purpose. So when it has been ripe or it has been come to cut down, so at that time it will be removed from the land. So in this way, these are the three exceptions which has been provided to things rooted into the earth to called as an immobile property. So these things does not come under the immobile property. So what we have taken into consideration, the Transfer of Property Act section 3 has been provided what is meant by immobile property. The definition which has been given under Transfer of Property Act is negative one. Thereafter, to know the exact meaning of immobile property, we move towards General Clauses Act, that is section 3 subclause 26, and thereafter Registration Act section 2 subclause 6, wherein we come to know this immobile property includes land, benefits to arises out of the land, and things attached to the earth. And thereafter, what is meant by things attached to the earth, and when it comes to the things rooted into the earth, except again these three things, standing timber, growing crops, and growing grass. So from my side, all those things are relating to immobile property. So we will meet soon again with another topic with another subject. Thank you.